Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dungeons and Disciples.
Hello there. I could not do it.
Well,
I was waiting for the intro music.
Oh, were you?
No, but I wanted to hear it.
You know, we can...
Let's do it. Let's start it all over. I can't say hello
I felt
there?
like he messed it up, so I just jumped in.
Oh, that wasn't a mess up. I was going to roll with it.
Oh,
now
yeah. It's gone. Right? It's got to be.
Hello there.
Well, folks, I think the surprise has been let out of the bag like a cat, I guess, which I don't like cats because I'm allergic. Don't hate me. There's two new voices on this episode today. The first one you heard was our good friend Choate, and the other mystery man in the corner over there hiding like a little cowardly dog. No, I'm kidding.
That's hurtful.
Ace up the sleeve.
No, we were trying to think of nice things to say about these people, and I'm like, well,
that's your nice things to say?
I haven't said anything nice yet.
You basically said they exist.
That other lovely voice.
We are here.
Yeah, that's right. The other gentleman is Stephen Kachur, my somewhat brother-in-law, and our home DM.
We talk about him all the time.
Yeah, we talk about him all the
and
time.
And he's finally in the midst.
That's
I'm
true.
here. Ready to roll. I'm excited.
Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So what is your nice thing to say?
Okay, first of
him?
all, I appreciate the fact that we survived 1,600 miles in a vehicle together.
That's saying something.
That is saying something. You guys
We
were
did
great
survive.
vehicle road trip companions to Gen Con. Yeah, listeners, we talked about Gen Con a couple times, and Steven and Tuck were also there, and it was a blast, and we stayed in what we thought was originally going to be a suite, but ended up just being, what was it, a single bed?
5 grown
like
men.
In a king bed, 5 grown men with a single king bed.
I never heard that part of the story.
Quite a few air mattresses blown up there. It was great. And no, it was a cool trip. No, each of these guys are great. Tuck, I've known a year and a half, almost 2 years now, I guess.
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. And the first time we ever really hung out was the first Gen Con that we went to. A little bizarre, but a lot of fun.
So we mentioned at some point, I said something because I'm a huge board game nerd, and Tony was like, oh yeah, I like board games too. And I misinterpreted that to mean the same level that I was. But I brought him up there, and so I am to blame
for my addiction.
He brought you up there, Tony?
Oh, he brought me really, really close into board games.
Wow.
And I am now like super in love with board games because of it. Like
That's
when I
awesome.
said board games before, I think where was I? I don't know, because I mean, obviously there's a lot of people that know the basics, like Monopoly. They know Risk. They know these, Parker Brothers games.
Mm-hmm. Hurt my soul.
It did hurt his soul. And then when he showed me Wingspan for the first time, my eyes lit up and I was like, what treasures have we unlocked today? It was wonderful.
And that's when I realized, because the first game we played, I put you in the deep end. And I kind of could tell as we were playing, and then towards the end, that I had awoken something inside of him.
Folks,
and it was like, we could go to Gen Con and you will see more board games than you ever knew existed.
Wow.
Yeah, and to finish off that, my wallet has never been the same.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I
That's
think
fair.
that's one of the coolest parts that I enjoyed about Gen Con is it opens your eyes to like what tabletop gaming can do. Because like when you tell someone like, hey, I'm going to Gen Con, they're like, oh, what's that? It's a tabletop gaming convention. And they're like, oh, so you play Monopoly. And you're like, not exactly. I mean, yeah, not exactly.
Well, and Joshua and I were talking when you guys were using the restroom before we started. But the cool thing about Gen Con is there's something for everybody, because we were talking, I'm hard in board games and tournaments, card game tournaments. You went and played D&D basically the entire time.
Yeah.
And,
the entire time.
and then there's stuff that we haven't seen either.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff.
And then there's the whole card hollow that we totally avoided because we're not trading card game people, which is fine. We're just not there yet.
Yeah.
Maybe ever will be, but I know there are those people out there. Oh, I have a nice thing to say about Steven. He's not my least favorite person in the world. I'll say that. I don't know what else nice to say.
Dude.
There's just so many good things to say. Just it's Stephen.
You could have said like started off with
I
anything
exist.
different.
I exist, and I'm not his least favorite person that exists.
No, I think what I will say about Stephen is he's one of the easiest person to hang out with, like because like he makes you so comfortable. He can tell good stories. He can I don't know what else. There's just a million things. I don't know. We've known each other for a few years now because my brother married your sister, and life has never been the same.
It hasn't been the same.
My goodness.
He just saved his character. His character almost died.
Yeah, Zook went his wife out.
He just almost didn't make
Really
it.
close.
I think from here on out, he's going to be rolling for Zook to, die on a nat 20 now. So Elroy's off the hook, I think.
Elroy's off the hook. It's Zook now. Or we do both.
But yeah, so welcome officially to the show, guys.
I also have to say my nice things.
Do so.
I do so
Yes.
because, well, for Tuck, I've known Tuck all of physically about 15 minutes, to be honest with you. But just to have you here, just to see the Holy Spirit flowing through you it's actually really incredible. Just to be like one-on-one with you in a room, I was like, man, this dude's filled. And it's really cool to see.
Thank you.
Just to see another gentleman who just is so passionate about board games, D&D, all that stuff, just to be so filled with the Holy Spirit, just to hear your insights coming, it's going to be great. So it's been a wonderful now 17 minutes knowing you. And then Stephen over here, another brother in Christ. I was vetted by Stephen to play our first campaign.
Right.
Like I've never been vetted in my life.
I didn't know that people were committed to the cause.
I forgot how in-depth that was.
It was scary. It was actually scary. I mean, folks, this, if you can't tell, it's going to be a lot of DM discussions and awesome conversation. But if you want to know how to vet your players before that you like go hard or go home into a 2.5 year campaign, Stephen might, reach out to Stephen, talk to him about it because dude, all you needed left was my social security to really go deep. He was like
making it impossible to leave.
He was like, "Who's your family? What day can you play? Are you really committed to this cause? What's your backstory like?"
And I only knew you. I didn't know you for very long before. I think I probably only knew you for like a month before I invited you to play in the campaign.
We met at a barbecue shop and we were riding in the back of a truck together. And you're like, "Hey man, is that a Boba Fett sweater?"
No,
It's never been the same.
It was your Mandalorian pop thing on the back of your phone.
It was. Never mind. And ever since then, this man is like
Been downhill. I mean, it's been very good.
What? This man, Stephen, has been my go-to for the thick and the thin
Yes,
Yeah.
everything.
of literally everything. And to finally have you and you, Tuck, on the podcast, you guys are in for a treat. You really are.
It's fun. Well, to begin, I think one of our things that we got to do first is kind of introduce the theme of the episode. And you hinted at it a second ago.
I did. I need
No,
to get
it's
better
good.
at that.
No, it's good because this is the fun of the episode. We get to talk about what it is to DM and all those wonderful things. Today's episode is called "Oh, the Stories We Tell."
I love it.
What a great title, Josh. Well done.
It was originally going to be creating the world.
Yeah.
Creating the world. And I was sitting in church on Sunday and I was actually thinking of Jarek's the podcast that he had. It's for Hannah and her friend.
Shout out to the Tales We Tell podcast. Go follow them everywhere you can hear podcasts.
Right. I just remember thinking about it and I was honestly thinking about our campaign, Stephen. And I was just like, man, the stories we're going to be able to tell through it. And I was like, that's it.
There's
That's
so many times, like even me and Josh were talking on the phone yesterday, and like I just thought of all these like little tiny things that like happened like a year and a half ago, or even longer, like 2 years ago in the campaign, and we were just like, oh, it feels like so. I mean, it was a long time ago, but just
2.5
looking back,
years.
it was just like that was a good time.
It was.
That was fun.
Like how Jarek tried to steal something from 3 earrings.
Yeah,
It
like
kind of felt like yesterday.
like even like we were talking about like when you guys went to Bazoxen and like went to all these different like towns, Jigao. When you guys went to Jigao and like participated in the like all like the festival stuff, like that was like I was looking back in our notes, like that was over almost 2 years ago,
Yeah.
which is wild.
Yeah. These cities that we're referencing, folks, is from Call of the Netherdeep? Call of the Netherdeep. It's a module put out by Wizards of the Coast that we've been kind of playing through, but Steven has added so much homebrew content that I can't tell what's fact or fiction.
It's incredible.
It's pretty great. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's incredible.
And here we are kind of nearing the end. We were supposed to finish before Gen Con, but that never happened.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. Like 6 months before Gen Con, I was like, all right, the goal is to finish before Gen Con, and then we can just like go, we'll take a break, and then we'll, and then no, we're still,
going.
we've got some stuff to go through.
Part of that lends to the fact that there's so much good storytelling happening, not just from you, but also between the characters.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of where we're going to be going with this episode a little bit today, is like breaking down how we have these conversations between characters, but also how the DM crafts the narrative, whether that's with a module or without a module, and all these other things. So,
well, I'll say from the lens of a DM, every once in a while you'll hear your players start talking, and as soon as you can sit back and just let them go, the longer that goes, the better you have crafted your world and the characters are
That's
doing.
so good.
It's just to let them take things over for a while.
That's amazing. Well, Tuck, since you spoke last, let's do what we do with all of our guests on the show, and let's roll our character sheets and introduce why we think what our stats are for our own personal lives, and kind of go from there.
Excellent.
And you guys can go as deep into it as you want, as not deep as you don't
guys
want to
can
go.
be shallow human beings, or you guys can really be like intimate with the listeners.
You can really drive home the backstory.
We're getting real.
We're getting real for a moment.
You're prepared for an 18-page backstory.
So let's do this. Tuck, we'll have you go first, and then we'll kind of flip-flop between you and Steven, just going back and forth, rather than starting with one and then going to
Yeah, so those listening at home, we've got 4 6-sided dice in Tuck's hand, and he's going to roll all 4 of those dice. If this is your first time listening, that's why I'm explaining. What we're doing is we're rolling the 4 dice and we're dropping the lowest. That's how we're doing it here. And then that score is going to be given over to 6 of the main attributes for a character in D&D. That it would be strength, dexterity, wisdom, intelligence, constitution, and charisma. So, Tuck,
see how it goes.
Here we go. First roll. What you got?
Decently. Is that a 1? That's a 1, isn't it? Wait.
The beaker
This
is
one
the
has
6.
a picture. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, the beaker is the 6.
All right, we'll drop that then. So I've got a 13.
Okay, so 13. And we can write them to the side for a minute, and then we can add them to wherever you want later.
Oh, really?
We'll go that route. That's what we did with Aaron when he was on.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
much better.
we've made some subtle improvements
Some
to the view.
modifications.
I missed that one. I remember you guys doing it and just kind of going as you did, and
We
then
did.
trying to figure it out as you went.
Nothing
and
flawed with that.
No, it was very interesting to find that out.
It's interesting.
But yes, you can rhyme to the side.
Yeah.
That makes it a little bit easier. I'll put that 13 in my pocket then.
Sweet. So what's your next 5 rolls going to be?
Okay, you want me to just do this?
Go for it. Let's
Okay.
go straight down the line.
All right. Decent. It's another 13. Nice. Okay.
Steven, you got a lot to live up to right here, bud.
Yeah, I'm turning out to be a pretty decent human, right? If I've got high numbers.
All based off of the dice rolls, yeah.
That's a 10.
Because dice determine the quality of your character.
I mean, in a lot of ways it does. It's 12 there. You always have the min-maxers that try and bump things up as high as possible. But a lot of times, I don't know, what do you guys do? Do you have a character in mind and then roll for that character, or do you do your rolls and then try and tweak what kind of a character you do based on the numbers you're given?
That's a great question.
That's a good question.
I'm actually the first one of that. So I like to have a character in mind, and then I'll do my rolls, and I will just assign as I go. Like if I know my character is going to be on the more intelligent side, I'm obviously going to, or like spellcasting side, I'm going to assign my higher qualities there. And then it's kind of fun for me because like Kanan almost, like when we played him in our campaign, I had a brute force mercenary in mind, and we had quite a good amount of roles, and I had good roles in there, but one of them was my intelligence, and I went to town with it because I know if my intelligence is low, that gives me like this creative freedom to play with the character in such a way of like, all right, man, I rolled an 8 on intelligence. We're gonna really swing for that one.
Just like Grog from Critical Role.
Exactly. And I don't know. I like that concept because I can take the I can, even with low rolls, it gets me excited to be like, oh, I can play it like this. And just, it almost gives more character life. It gives the character almost more life for me. That's me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it creating a character and then bringing the roles into it, I think definitely makes it easier. But I do agree. I think it makes it a little bit more fun, especially like going into it. And then obviously you have to you tweak small things. And at the end of the day, like it's all about having fun. So if you have a character in mind that you want to play, and like you play this barbarian, but your highest, like this like brute force barbarian like Kanan, and then your highest roll is like a 10 and you have to put it in strength or something like that. Like, you could still play him like how you wanted to. It just is going to create for, funny moments because you're not going to have as high of a modifier or whatnot. So
A lot of compensating at that point.
right.
Cool. So we got Tux rolls.
Yep. So I did decently well. I got 2 13s, a 12, a 16, and 2 10s.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm
not
good
a
with that.
you don't
I
have
don't
a
have-
single digit.
I don't have any single digits.
Wow.
That's kind of
that's the way I roll
relieving.
in real life too. So that makes sense.
All right, Steven, go for your rolls, bud.
All right.
And then we can assign and discuss. And this is big for him. He hasn't rolled a character in a long
I know
time.
it's been a while. I got a 9 for the first one. All right. All right. We're not starting off as hot. Okay.
We're doing great.
All
no,
right.
that's a 6.
Is the beaker a 6?
Yeah, the beaker's
Beaker's
a
a
6.
6.
Oh, so I'm actually 11, 12, 13. Okay.
What I
that's
mean,
much
folks,
better.
by a beaker is when I was at Gen Con, I got these sets of lab dice from Chessex, from one of their booths that they had there. And they had a beaker on one side and the words lab dice on the other side. So the beaker is indicating a 6 on the die.
That is a 17.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
Dude, there's no way you're about to boost your confidence like this.
All right, let's do this.
He's in it now, folks.
All right, that's not as great, but not awful. That is an 11.
You still got double digits.
Still double digits. So that's the 1, 5, 8. All right, I got a single digit now.
Okay.
All right, we got 2 more.
It compensates for the 17. Or
He
it kind
Yeah.
of, fixes the 17.
That's
Oh.
rough.
Wow.
That's a 7. Okay.
Oh, no.
All right, one more. All right, let me get. That's the worst part about rolling like a 17 or 18. Everything else is just going to be bad. Okay, that's a 13. I'll take that.
Sweet.
All right, I got a 13, 17, 11, 8, 7.
Cool.
That's good.
Well, let's unpack Tuck for a minute and ask him why he assigned what he assigned. And as we're doing that, Steve, you can go ahead and figure
I gotta
out
figure out
where
what
that
I'm
7's
assign.
going to go.
All right. So I put my highest, my 16, I put it in dexterity.
Okay.
And I will say that is from a lifetime of juggling. I was actually briefly in the circus for a very short amount of time.
I
in
forgot about
college.
that information. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So it ended up conflicting with my class schedules, so I wasn't able to stay in it. But I did the rollabola, which is where you've got the tube and the platform on top, and you balance while you juggle. So that was like 3 weeks worth of the circus.
That's so cool.
That's
So,
incredible. I
Yeah,
love that.
And unicycle, things like that. So I would say I'm fairly dexterous, where I feel pretty confident with a 16 there.
Yeah. And I think, knowing you personally, I've heard some more of your stories about like the different twists and turns of your life and how you got to where you are today with your lovely wife, Chelsea, and your 2 beautiful kids. And I love them all to death. And yeah, I agree with that. That's great.
Great. I'll take that. I put my next highest. I had 2 13s. I put one of those in charisma. I used to say, so I was very shy growing up. And then when I went to college, I broke out of my shell because I had to, because I needed money. And one of the guys in the dorm room down the way from me found out that I could juggle. And he said, hey, if you can juggle, I can teach you to do balloon animals. And it pays really well doing balloon artistry in restaurants.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that sounds real nerdy. I don't know if I'm up for that. And he was like, the first gig that I've got is $200 per hour. And I was like, oh,
Per
learn how
hour?
to do it.
Wow.
It was
Per
a birthday
hour?
party.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Where'd you work at Chuck E. Cheese?
It was a birthday party of some rich person down in Florida. And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll do that. So I learned to be outgoing And then for a long time, I used to say I had a superpower where I could say anything and not make people mad. As in, like, they would hear me the right way. And I think that's kind of gone away a little bit in the last couple of years. But for a while, I could just kind of tell people, like, straight up, like, hey, man, you're messing up here. And they would kind of hear it in the right way. So
That's
I'd say
just me
that's
having a
pretty
filter,
good
and I get
treatment.
chastised for it.
Right?
I'm jealous of that.
Yeah.
one.
Hey, listen, it's gone away because now I make people mad when I try and tell them things. But
That's awesome.
I put my other 13 in Constitution. I don't really get sick. So I got sick this last week, but it's about once a year. So pretty good Constitution, right?
I think that's great.
Eat spicy food, stuff like that.
You and your
I'll put
hot
it there.
honey.
Hot honey is the least of it, man. Chelsea got me a hot sauce making kit because
Oh,
I would
wow.
always complain that stuff wasn't spicy enough.
And I'm
She
still
was
not
like, "Here
daring
you
enough
go."
to try it.
I have so there's the Carolina Reaper that's the top.
Yep.
And then there's a Trinidad Scorpion, and that's in the box, and I haven't used it yet. I'm a little nervous because it's like
makes my
1.2
insides-
million Schofield units.
Makes my
Oh my
insides
goodness.
scream.
Yeah.
I will say this: whenever we play D&D, and there are times that we'll order wings just for the night. When we break for dinner and stuff like that, we'll have wings, and Jarek will always try to get the hottest stuff around. And he wanted to do a Carolina Reaper something
Oh, yeah.
recently.
I literally, the last time we had wings, no, what was it?
Must have been a time before, right?
Yeah, your wife made.
Yes, the
Oh,
barbecue.
gee,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
stuff.
The 10 pounds of barbecue wings.
They were
bro.
delicious.
And
10 pounds.
I literally poured straight. I had Jarek open his mouth and poured straight hot sauce into his mouth,
Oh, but it like,
and he was
But it-
unfazed.
but it
didn't it like
came
mess
out-
up or something? It came out so quick.
it came out so
I turned
quick.
it over, and like I was expecting, like you've had Texas peas opened up, you have to shake the bottle to get it out. So that's what I did, and this thing came out like you were pouring milk out of a jug. Like it was. I was just like, I looked down, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. He was a champ though. He finished
Tears in
it.
his eyes. He was great.
Tuck, are you a curry guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that vibe.
Yeah. I love Indian food to the point where
so
I
good.
have gotten angry at the Indian restaurant here in town because they will not make it spicy. And I will say everything that I've tried saying the hottest you can make it, I've tried saying Indian hot. I've tried saying make it like I'm your family, and it always comes out like mild. And I'm like, I want it to burn me, and they won't do it.
That's amazing.
Let's
What's
see.
next?
And then I put a 12 and a 10 in intelligence and wisdom, just because I don't know. I guess I'm kind of smart, but
You are very smart.
I'm not. I don't know. I do my best. I'll say that. I'm working in a job that doesn't require my degree in the slightest, and I'm fine with that. And then I put a 10 in strength because that is not my forte. So,
Well, you have to be strong to have kids, so at least it's not a single digit.
you know what? The 10 is the commoner. Like, that's a regular person right there. So, I guess I'm like a regular person.
Way to go.
Yeah. I'm not like Steven over here.
Oh my gosh.
Actually yoked.
10's like not like if you're rolling, obviously like 17s and 18s are really cool, especially like starting out as level 1 or whatever, level 3. But like 10s are solid.
Right.
10s
Yeah.
are solid.
They get the job done.
So-
They do.
All right, Steven.
Okay. I thought about this very hard
So not hard at all?
because the 17, I don't think I can justify putting a 17 anywhere on this list.
So are you taking some of those points and averaging out that 7?
Yeah, I averaged out everything. No, so okay, going top to bottom. My strength, I put a 13. I could probably strength and wisdom. I put strength 13, wisdom 17. I think those could probably be swapped out interchangeably just because, like I said, I don't think the 17.
Okay, well, we have to dive into this for a
Right,
half a second.
right,
So, like,
okay.
Are you forgetting those years you spent as a personal trainer and a bodybuilder?
That's what
No,
I'm
no, I'm
saying.
not. But those was also years ago.
Guys,
So-
we have to find a way to share this video of Stephen on stage strutting to, what was the song you were strutting to?
whatever it takes.
Whatever it
by
takes.
Imagine
Imagine
Dragons.
Dragons. Yes, that's right. And my goodness gracious, my brother-in-law was a yoked dude. I'm not saying he's not yoked now.
I'm
But,
not
like,
yoked now.
When you're that toned and
But that was
bodybuilt and
a caliber,
sculpted,
man.
Michelangelo, couldn't have done much better himself. So
Well, since Tony's complimented me, I have to say one thing, and I told them I promised them I was going to say this because on episode 1, when you guys,
Oh,
you
no.
know exactly what to
Oh
say.
no!
When you guys
Oh,
were rolling
no.
your character sheets, and Tony started picking his numbers, and he was talking about his strength. The literally first thing that popped in my head was, that man's got some ripped calves. And then, sure enough, I think one of you guys said, and I was like,
It
I'm
was
so
Josh.
glad they said that. And I said, if I ever speak on that podcast, I will reiterate. He didn't say that just to say it. He does have very ripped calves.
Tony's calves are the biggest calves
I've
I've ever seen.
in my-
And I've been around bodybuilders. I've been around. I'm never was as toned as Steven, but I've been around the block, and I have never seen a man with as big as calves as you
Agree.
got, dude.
well, that's years of, I don't even know, playing soccer, playing drums, doing, I don't know.
They're massive.
I
They're
appreciate that.
huge.
Okay, so strength I did 13. Dexterity, unlike Tuck, I was a very uncoordinated individual when I was young. So I went ahead and put my dexterity at 7. And anybody like that knows me when I was younger, I just didn't have it. I got it when I got older, but I was like dexterity 7. Constitution, I put my 8 there. I don't think I get sick very often either. However, this last week, and I called Josh during this time, I got the most ill I have ever been in my life, I think. And for 3 days, I could not move. But I think like Constitution is like your like fortitude. Maybe I could swap out and put like a 13 there. I think I could somewhere down the middle.
I've also never seen a man as much as you mid-session be like, all right, you guys chat it out. I've got to go poop.
But does that have a direct correlation to your Constitution?
Yes. Uh-huh.
How much you can hold it?
I don't know.
I mean,
about
we could
that
be in the
part.
most deep emotional moments, and you're like, dude, gotta go. Sorry.
I gotta go. I'm like, all right, you guys are talking amongst yourself. It's those moments like Tuck was talking about where the like party just
story
takes
is just-
over
yeah.
and the DM isn't needed. I'm just like, all right, I'll catch up later, guys. I gotta go. Charisma, I put 11. Again, like down the middle of the road. I think I'm actually as much as like I'll DM and like meet new people and stuff like that. I think I'm a pretty introverted person. Like unless it's something that I'm like passionate about or really care about, like D&D and like DMing in front of like random people and stuff like that. Like I'm comfortable doing that. But anything else, I'm good with my people and
Yeah.
that's it. And then intelligence, I put 13. Again, down the middle. I'm a project manager. I don't need anything. I don't use a lot of intelligence in my job. But wisdom, that's where I put my 17. I need wisdom more than anything. I mean, when it comes to like my spiritual life, my work life, like D&D, like I think relationships, absolutely. Like I think, and I've prayed a lot for this, is just like God to give me wisdom on a daily basis. Like let me think through things before I do something.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's taken a long time, but I feel like I've gotten to a point to where I do really think through things before I like say something or do something. And that has saved me so many times.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. Well, thank you, boys, for sharing your roles and a little bit about why and the motivations and kind of talking about motivations. We'll be hitting that topic a little bit about player characters and driving character motivation coming up. But what are some of the first things we want to talk about as we kind of dive into this thing?
Before we dive in, there are a couple of questions that we want to bounce off of you guys.
Ooh, yeah.
And I think they're pretty straightforward. However, For me, I like to think very systematically, and I like to kind of get people prepared into the mindset of what we're going to kind of hop into, right? So a lot of these questions, I mean, they are open-ended. You guys can answer. Doesn't have to be one at a time. It can be very fluid as we kind of go along with it. But they're going to start setting up kind of some of the discussions that we're going to be going into. So it's like a first jump into them before we dive real deep into the weeds. So first question for both of our wonderful guests is this. How long have you been playing and running Dungeons & Dragons, specifically 5e? And what drew you to the role of Dungeon Master?
Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I can start.
You got
So my Dungeons and Dragons career goes way back. I remember my father talking about his game that he played back when I was like a young teenager or so. And I remember getting in my mind, hey, this sounds really cool. But I didn't really do anything with it until I was mid-20s or so. And I found a group to play with, and they were playing 3.5e, which was a lot of fun.
Wow.
And I enjoyed that a lot. And then I kind of took a break for several years, and then I found a good friend group that was playing, and I started playing with them 5e, and I've been playing with them. Now, I haven't played with them for about a year or so, just because things kind of ended. We finished up a campaign, and then I had been playing remotely with them after I moved to North Carolina, and they all went back to in person. And I was like, that's fine. We left amicably and everything went well. But I probably played with them for about 6 or 7 years. We went through 3 or 4 different campaigns, actually 4 or 5, because I think I ran 3 of them. One of those was completely homebrew, and then 2 of them were modules. So all in all, I'd probably say maybe like 8 years worth of playing, including 4 or 5 of DMing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What drew you into becoming a Dungeon Master?
Nobody else wanted to do it. Isn't that the answer that we always get?
That's so funny.
Like the most common
because
one.
that's my exact answer as well.
Yeah. I think that happens for a lot of people. When I joined the group, obviously somebody else was doing it. They finished up their campaign and was like, I don't want to do this again. And I was like, and nobody else did either. And I was like, I mean, I guess I'll give it a try. And it went well enough that they said, you're going to keep doing this. And to the point where I finished up one of my campaigns strategically placed because my son was being born. And I said, you guys pick it up. I'm taking off at least for like a month while I've got a newborn and stuff anyways. I'll jump back in and join whatever you guys are running. And a month or 2 later, nothing was happening. And I said, what's going on? They were like, nobody wanted to run it. I said, fine, I'll do it again. So I picked it up. But I had been doing homebrew stuff. And I said, with a kid, I've got to go back to modules and just kind of running it that way. So until they all went back to in person, it was like 5 years of me doing it. Even once I would finish and be like, does anybody want to pick up? No? Okay. All right. Let's do another one.
Wow. That's awesome. How about your story, Stephen?
Okay. So I started, the first thing about that drew me to D&D just in general is the fact that, I grew up, I played a lot of video games and stuff like that, and there's always like a leaderboard or a ranking or like, you're always trying to be better. And the part that I love about D&D is you're just playing it for fun and you're with your friends and there's like no scoreboard, there's no nothing. It's just like creating good memories and good stories. So that's what drew me just to the game in general at first. So me and a few of my buddies really wanted to play it, and this was back in 2017. So, 2018. And we started playing, and I ran a campaign for them for the same exact reason. All 3 of us were looking at each other like, are you going to be the DM? And they're like, you are. And I was like, okay, great. And again, it went well enough that I ran through a couple more with them. And then later down, this was probably in 2020, 2021, maybe, Tony, when I got my sister and brother-in-law to play. Yep. And this was when me and Tony,
We kind of just met.
We kind of met each other, but I was like, this guy's a nerd too, and we're gonna get along.
That's right.
So I asked my brother-in-law, I was like, you got to get Tony to play 100%, and of course he was all down.
100% in.
So I think I ran 2 for you guys.
First you ran something virtually.
Oh, I forgot about that.
We started Curse of Strahd, like everyone
Curse of Strahd.
so valiantly tries to do.
And this is where, and I don't want to skip around because there's so many.
There's important points in there.
Yes, this pie is very flavorful. So we started Curse of Strahd, and it went well.
Did you finish it?
No.
No one has ever finished that campaign.
We're not going to name names, but
it just, it's difficult. We had 5 players,
yes,
somewhere along those lines, and it just no one could meet at the same day. We went out there, and I was very like nonchalant, and it was just we could all meet on this day, and then we went a couple times, and one person couldn't show up, and it's like, okay, we're still gonna play and make it happen. And
we had to drag his body through a place,
we're like
hidden in the bushes that we forgot about that one time. So we had to go back and pick up his body on a horseback.
Yes.
Listen, I firmly believe that Curse of Strahd is cursed. I have never heard of a group finishing it.
No, same thing with my old acapella group from college. They started Curse of Strahd. They did 3 streams, I think, and then they stopped playing.
Well, that's why I was so when I vetted Josh for this campaign, obviously it was exaggerated. I didn't ask you about your family, but to be fair, it was. I mean, I was like making sure that everyone was committed. Like, hey,
truly committed.
We are gonna play every other week, and we're in this for the long haul. I don't want to get like, imagine we're 2.5 years deep right now, or a little over 2 years deep.
Over 2.5 actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Josh, let me get back to that. Josh is the best note taker I've ever seen in my life.
Truly.
So
DM
he knows what's happening more. He
Uh-huh.
knows what's happening more than I know what's happening. So, but that was the purpose behind it. I was like, hey, we're committed to this. I don't want to be 2.5 years deep, and then we're just like, hey, it's done. Like, it's the ending is like one of the sweetest parts. Like,
truly.
But basically my entire D&D career since 2018, I've been DMing.
You DM'd the Curse of Strahd, and then you did our Lost Mines.
I did the Star Wars campaign for you guys.
With Gorlag Trell that Aaron keeps saying that I should bring back to the next thing.
You should bring him back, 100%. He should come into like just the regular D&D universe.
This Star Wars creature, Gorlag Trell here.
He was a comedian.
That's right.
And
dude, you should just make him a gift, dude.
I made him to get a discount. They were trying to buy this ship to get off of this planet, and to get a discount, I told, this was completely just not when I was creating like the campaign, but to get some extra money, Gorlag had to perform a comedy night at the local tavern. It was really funny. But yeah, basically 2018, been DMing since then. Obviously my biggest feat so far has been, we've been running this campaign for 2.5 years. I think my longest one after that is, I ran a Star Wars one for like probably 1.5 years. And then every other campaign I've ran have probably been like, I want to say mini campaigns, like 8 to 15 sessions. So.
That's awesome. All right. Now we're diving deep. Now we're starting to get there. What inspires your world building? So this can be anything like, is there like particular movies, books, like personal experience? Like, how do you guys build this world? And obviously there's like modules you can go off of and things of that nature, but you guys each, I would assume, bring your own kind of taste to the table of DMing. So what inspires that?
Actually, if I may answer this one. Dun, dun, dun. Since I wasn't asked the first question, because people forget that I actually DM'd a one-shot one time.
That's
I'm
totally
sorry,
insane.
Boo. I'm sorry.
And it was very good.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. And I'm not going to throw a ton of spoilers in there, but I'm going to answer that first question. How long have I been playing and running D&D? I've been playing for as long as Stephen has been DMing for me, and then plus 6 months before that with a friend of mine. And then what drew me to become a DM? I love the world of story building and crafting a narrative. And now to answer this question, what inspired that specific module that I did? I did a Toys R Us themed one shot. Actually, Tuck,
It was fun.
you played it too.
Yeah, it was fun.
I played in it as
Yeah,
well.
both of you guys
Yeah.
played it. I forgot about that. But it's in the world of like a Toys R Us. Well, I call it Toys for Brats, and it's in this store that's in disrepair, and the giraffe that's running the store calls these heroes in to come figure out what's like trashing the store at night, and bringing down their stocks and all that kind of stuff. So like that was the premise of this thing. So trying to find out who the BBEG is there at the end of the narrative, and the world building was fun because I love Toys R Us and I was inspired by nostalgic 90s commercials in that period of my life, and that was it for me. How about you guys? What inspires your world building?
So I think for me, and a lot of this stuff, honestly, Josh and Tony, you probably have already heard because we've been playing together for so long now. But I think the biggest part for my world building revolves around the characters, like significantly. My goal is my favorite moment is either like ending a session or just creating a moment like where everyone's just like jaws drop. And that's that's building a world that like your characters just feel like they are the stars of it, basically. You know what I mean? I think a lot of my inspiration comes from, like you said, like movies and stuff like that. I watch a lot of, like medieval movies and stuff like that. I will obviously watch a lot of Star Wars. That's where a lot of my Star Wars inspiration came from. Obviously, like read a lot of articles, watch a lot of YouTube. ChatGPT is also helpful at moments. But yeah, I think that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. I think building off of obviously creating the world at a general like base, and then once you get your characters and who wants to play in it, and then just really like driving the point home, I think just creates a fun experience for everyone.
Yeah, so I've got a specific and then a general kind of answer. So specifically, the homebrew one that I did, we went for about 1.5 years or so, but I based it on Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, wow.
Which I love that storyline.
Oh, yeah.
Had a lot of fun with it. My favorite Final Fantasy game. And I asked my players, I said, have any of you played this? And I said, no. I said, all right, let's do it. And so we got through like the first of 4 discs, basically, when I had to call it and my son was born. I was like, I can't keep putting all of this work into it on a weekly basis, but it was a lot of fun. And I took a lot of the characters, and then obviously my players kind of made it their own. But on a general idea, even with pre-gen modules and things like that, I get inspiration from everything. So reading things online, watching a TV show or a movie, a lot of times I'll look at like one thing and be like, that would make for a great puzzle, or I could turn that into an encounter, or I like that character NPC kind of a person that I can bring in to show up at a tavern at some point that they meet and have fun with or whatever. And so even with, and like you were saying, Stephen, anything, even though it's in like a pre-built world, there's so much that you add in on the daily basis just because it's fun, or it kind of calls to it.
Well, I think it's sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, like, I applaud you guys because NPCs are my favorite experience ever. Steven has built probably my favorite NPC ever.
We have to wait.
I know.
I
dislike waiting.
So, no, I think, like you said, I think it's necessary for a campaign that's going to be engaging. Is like, you can't just run if you're going to play a module. Now, depending on how much you want to pull in your own stuff, that's up to you. But like, you've got to it's got to be somewhat homebrew to make it engaging for your players and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, I've always said I think anyone really can enjoy D&D as long as you're with the right people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's necessary, and I think anyone can enjoy. Like, my sister played it. Both of my sisters have played it. I'm trying to get my parents to try it out.
That would be amazing.
But the one we're running right now is like little half and half, like half module, half homebrew. And my favorite moments, honestly, are probably the homebrew parts, because those are the parts where you can just like drive home the characters' backgrounds, and it just creates. Like I said, there's jaw-dropping moments, like when I end the session and just everyone like looks at me because they know this is the best part. Like I'll start like slowing down my talking, and I'm like, and then they all just look at me and they're like, no, and I was like, and we'll pick up next time.
The worst words you can ever hear.
That and did we level up?
Oh,
Sorry.
if I don't hear 10 times a session, did we level up? I don't know if everyone's okay. I need to make sure I hear it 10 times a session. Shout out Jarek.
As every episode. Can we just get like a bobblehead of Jarek and just keep it in here?
Should we do a Creon bobblehead or should we do a Jarek bobblehead?
You can do both.
Oh my gosh, this is great marketing. Jarek, we'll get on this real soon.
My favorite, and I love seeing like posts and like memes online and stuff like that about this, where it talks about the DM creating like this NPC on the spot, and then the characters fall in love with it, and it's a part of the campaign.
Yep. I am notoriously bad at I whenever I have an NPC, I forget to name them ahead of time, and they always ask, and what's this person's name?
All the time.
So one of the biggest favorite NPCs that my players ever came across, she was an oracle, a sage. She completely messed up like a lot of my characters because she was handing out cards that would give them like some crazy like benefit or detriment, and her name was Susan.
Folks, there's nothing wrong with the name Susan, but fitting in an oracle, like...
Yeah, she should have had a really good name, like a real fan.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Well, also just like when you think of like D&D, like you think of like these names and stuff like that, and just like this is the king of this distant far off land who rules all these armies. His name is Tim.
Well, yeah, and because I described her and everything that she was doing, and then of course the one guy who was always taking notes is like, and what's her name? And I just froze in the headlights.
Josh.
Man, I forgot to do that.
That's when you bring up your quick fairy tale name generator real quick.
Okay, but here's the thing that I love about that is yours was like an oracle, a sage, handing out characters. Stephen, you know which NPCs are favorite, and you need to describe the literal difference here. That is just astounding.
I needed to create. There was a moment where two of the characters, my brother-in-law Aaron, his character Elroy, and Jarek's character Creon. I needed to just give them a little hint of information. They were in this part of the city. They were in this garden, and I just needed to give them a little hint of information. So I had a local. I created this local just on the spot. I was like, they didn't find something that I wanted to find. I was like, okay, this local is just going to give them a clue. Well, this local was he was a corn dog vendor, but
fantasy corn dog.
Yeah. So, but obviously corn dogs. It's fun because corn dogs wasn't invented yet. So he was like, it just started out with basically meat sticks, and then later on, Zook, Tony's character, suggested he was like, yo, you should dip it in cornbread and like do all this stuff. But anyways, his character's name, of course, they asked first name. It's C, just the letter C.
He has become the most beloved character.
He has now been kidnapped by one of the main villains in the game.
The notorious gang leader type character.
They've had to rescue him. They have been to his house. They have like gotten clues from like the main story from him.
We've invested in his business.
They've invested in his business.
Like not even a little. We've invested
so much platinum,
thousands of gold into his business. And I'm just like sitting here, and I'm like, see, we've made it. We didn't know this was going to happen, but it did.
And we even helped his like Yelp reviews too.
Oh yeah, they wrote reviews on him, told the city about him.
Because C has this meat stick cart that he's pushing around the whole city, and on the side of it, Stephen eloquently described that there's these little reviews posted on the side of his cart with different stars rating, and like he didn't know what it was at the time, but we almost invented like a 5-star rating in that world. Apparently,
they did. But now, like, literally, and this is not a joke, they'll be going across the sound, they'll be like, do we see C? And I was like, oh, God. But anyways.
All right, so here's another fun question that, we just got the laughs going, and now we're I'm so excited. Can you share an example of a plot twist or surprise that you've incorporated into a campaign?
Ooh. I've got a few that I can think of off the bat.
Go ahead. Tuck looks like he's thinking.
Do you have one?
No, go ahead.
Oh,
Okay. So I think the two biggest ones were in the campaign we're running now. And I think one is your first character, Kanan, was a part of this gang called the Myriad. And there was the... they basically like had a leader that was over this specific large district. Well, Elroy, who is my brother-in-law Aaron's character, also had a character, and he had a cousin that went rogue when he was younger.
Yep.
And long story short, they eventually figured out that the leader of this this Myriad gang, this like spanned across the entire globe basically, was also Elroy's cousin. And when they found out that, oh my gosh, you guys, I remember you guys stood up from the table, you guys started doing laps around the room.
Yeah.
that was a disturbing moment. Mostly because Kanan was in his presence.
Oh, yeah.
And Elroy didn't know. But Kanan built the connection in the room. As Kanan's like trying to talk his way out of not being murdered on the spot.
Well,
And I'm fully convinced that he would have died. He would have gotten killed right there.
honestly, and when I created that, I didn't know when it was going to be revealed. And it was the perfect moment, honestly.
Yes.
It was, yeah, it was perfect.
That's your Vader being Luke's father moment, I would think.
Exactly. Now this guy's like gone off. He's still one of the main villains in the campaign.
I apologize if that spoiled Star Wars for anyone, by the way.
His name is literally Father.
I know,
in German.
Darth Father.
Yeah.
I will say that was one of the coolest plot twists that I think we've come across so far. So,
All right, Tuck.
So I'll go the other direction. I'll do a surprise. I think the most fun that I've had as a surprise is we were running Tomb of Annihilation, which happens in a deep jungle situation, and it's kind of a map crawler for a long time. It runs in a couple different parts, but the first one is really you're just kind of finding your way randomly through this jungle and coming up with a lot of different things that happen and different locations that have some significance to them as you're trying to find a very specific location where you'll eventually, solve the big bad puzzle. But one week, I heard like a day or two before that a couple of my players were going to be out. And instead of just canceling the session, I told the ones that were remaining, hey, let's go ahead and meet anyways. We'll do just a one shot that I've had in my back pocket for a while. Well, I had planned for this, so I knew whenever somebody was going to be out, I was going to run this one thing. So I had them all, I had pre-made characters for goblins, and they all played for goblins, and they got to be like the bad guys for a little while. And they had a lot of fun being the bad little goblins and like doing mischief and stuff like that. Well, a session or two later, the characters came across a goblin enclave. And lo and behold, there were several characters that some of them recognized the way that some of these looked, and they were like, "Are those our characters?" And I was like, "Yes, they are." And so I got my players to act as the goblins as they were interacting with the party as well. So some of them were taking two roles
That's so
from
cool.
both directions,
That's
and
really
had
cool.
a lot of fun with it.
kind of
That's
like what
really cool.
kind of like what a DM has to do on a regular basis, bouncing between character roles.
I feel like my players did that on purpose several times, trying to get
Okay.
two characters to talk to each other. I'm like, please don't make me do this.
And then you're just stuck having a conversation with
With
yourself
yourself.
between these two NPCs.
Yep.
And your brain is having to click back and
Yeah.
forth. Yeah.
So I gave
And
them
then,
a little taste.
and then sometimes there's like three, and you got voices for all three, and then one voice for the person one is now person two, and they've all switched voices. And you're just like, I'm having a hard time keeping up, guys.
Fortunately, though, all of your goblins seem to be from the same area
Yes.
of, our world.
There's a very similar demographic when it comes to goblins for you, Stephen.
Well, and it started in my campaign that I ran for Tony, and they all have Brooklyn accents.
It's true.
and
Still, my favorite NPC from that era was Droop. He was
Droop.
I'm gonna need an example presented to the listeners about this voice.
Yeah, because you weren't on our voice episode.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I'm not the best with voices. I mean, as you know, like
He doesn't give himself enough credit, folks.
but every single one talks, and I always get into the voice by saying, "Hey, I'm walking here," and then they all talk like this, and they're like, "Hey, do you want some coffee? You want some coffee?"
Not the coffee.
Hey, yes, I want some coffee. So like the pitch changes whether, depending on what gender it is or, the tone and stuff like that. But
All right, I need you to give me a very specific NPC voice, only because we did it on our voice episode. Myself, Tony, and Aaron attempted it, and it just doesn't do this particular character justice whenever Creon asks for him.
oh my gosh.
Can you please?
Yes.
Can you please voice Mischief for us?
So do they know who Mischief is?
We've introduced Mischief briefly in, I think, 1 or 2 episodes.
So, long story short, Creon has a spell called Find Steed, and he creates this. He can create whatever kind of steed. He creates a
I
horse.
thought you said find Steve. And I was like, who is Steve?
Yeah,
That's a different type of
That's
spell,
a
folks.
different spell.
I just pop up.
Hi, I'm Steve.
But
What you need?
There's the gram for this.
Find Steve. That's what it is now. And I'll just pop up. Yeah, you need anything? So it lets him conjure a steed, and he can ride it, and it basically is any steed that he wants. He's done seahorses, regular horses,
What other kind of horses? Goats. Okay.
goats.
He did do a goat one
He
time.
did
didn't
when he was going down into that
Yeah.
pit.
So, but he's the only one that can communicate with this creature. So no one else hears this voice except him in his head, and he'll ask Mischief to do things, and he'll be like, they'll start like riding into this dark cave, and he'll be like, "Creon, I'm scared." And then you'd have to listen to a whole conversation. But I've created, Creon loves to push my buttons as the DM.
Absolutely. He
So
does.
this creates a conduit for me to push Creon's buttons, and I love it. And I'll just ask him to do, like, I'll have Mischief like resist to do things sometimes. Like, Creon, I don't want to do that. Do I have to?
And we just see this steed. We have no idea this is
Yeah,
going on. That's
yeah.
part of the best parts.
I got one more question to pose before we start, and I'm not nervous about it, but this could either go in a really funny
2
way.
hours in.
I'm sorry. You just said before we start. We've only been going for an hour.
I'm sorry.
I love it.
That's true,
great.
too. Last question before we dive into the weeds of specific conversation, I should say. What's the most challenging situation you faced as a DM, and how did you resolve it?
So I'm actually going to do this as a player. I was a player at the time, but I think it kind of answers the question. So when we were talking earlier about the curse of Strahd and how you'd never finished it, it was someone else DMing at the time in our friend group, and we've been playing together for years at this point. And one of the other guys is DMing, and he's going through Curse of Strahd. And I remember sending a message to one of the other players being like, "Hey, are you enjoying this?" And they were like, "No." And I reached out to another one, and I was like, "Are you enjoying this campaign?" And they said, "Not at all." And I said, "We have to talk to him about it." And they didn't want to. And I was like, "Guys, we have to have a conversation with him. We're all friends here. We're not going to try and get on to anybody about it. We're just not enjoying it." And it was several different issues going on. It was that he had never been a DM before, and he's our rules guy, and he was playing it very by the book, and it just kind of wasn't clicking with our group because a lot of the other people that had DM'd are a lot more lighthearted, and I think that's what people were used to. It was also just the campaign. Like, the campaign is very dark. It's very serious. It's kind of scary at some points. And it wasn't the kind of campaign that we were enjoying. So for a lot of different reasons, we ended up kind of having a come to Jesus kind of a thing of like, hey man, we're really not enjoying it. It's not you. We were just hoping to take a break and do something else for a little while. Maybe we'll come back to it, maybe not. But he took it really well. He took it in the right kind of a way that we were trying to have that conversation with him. It was at the time still. I still had my superpower, so that was it. But that was the most challenging situation that I've been in a D&D group, is really not wanting to hurt somebody's feelings, but having to make a change.
That's pretty cool. It's difficult. Conversations are difficult. Mm-hmm. I'll just say that.
Well, and this will kind of loop into answering the question for myself, but I feel like difficulties in DMing with the group most of the time don't come from the actual content itself, like, oh, I'm having a hard time coming up with content or like something like that. It most of the time, like Tuck was saying, like comes from the group itself. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to go into, I guess, specifics, but I've definitely have had like in whether it's a one shot or a campaign or whatever, and like, you know, if it's a one shot, maybe on the break, like you see a character might be a little bit off or something like that, and you know, you just pull them aside and you're like, hey, is everything okay? Like how, because it could be something as simple as like I'm doing something that's or there's a piece of content that is making them uncomfortable or they don't enjoy. Like this is a very, maybe not the best example, but maybe they're scared of spiders and they're in like in a spider cave or like something like that, and that's making them uncomfortable. Or or there's a lot of like drunks and alcoholics in the campaign, and maybe it's something that they struggle with and stuff like that, and it just doesn't, and it doesn't click with them. They're not having fun.
You know, and I actually, now that you've mentioned that, I did have a situation where we had somebody new joining our group. They were a good fit for the group, but I remember a session or two in, she kind of came up to me and she was like, are they always this like murder hobo-y, basically, kind of at the time, which, you know, for those of you who don't know, the term is sometimes they just kill everything, you know? and I, you know, kind of had to have a conversation of them of like, hey, like we either need to ask her not to be a part of this group because it's not a good fit, or maybe we can play this in a slightly different way. And they were good enough to be like, yeah, we can pull back from that a little bit. Like that, we were just kind of joking around, but it wasn't the kind of joking that she wanted to do.
I think it's important though, because Tony and I had alluded this to the past episode, re-referencing for listeners at home, kind of the point that Tuck is going off of. If you listen to our episode called Dark Vision, you can kind of allude or pick up things back from what kind of Tuck was saying. But I think as DMs, and what I appreciate, I haven't played with you, Tuck, so I can't really attest to it, but especially with you, Stephen, just being sensitive to the player, being sensitive to the party, and what is good content, what is not good content. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, because you guys are able to see, hey, this kind of content is making that person uncomfortable. Maybe we shouldn't pursue it. And I think it's a really amazing way to play, and I commend you guys for doing that.
And you can't drive this point enough home when it comes to D&D. It's all about having fun. If someone's not having fun, either A, like Tuck was saying, maybe it's not a good fit for them. If you have 7 people and playing in a campaign, and this other 6 people are having a blast, the time of their life, and then one person isn't having a good time, maybe it isn't the right group for them, and you can help them find another group or whatnot. And both options are perfectly okay, but it's like I said, it's just all about having fun. And just to give a quick shout out, and I use this. It's called the Deck of Player Safety.
I was just about to bring it up,
and I use it basically for all of my one shots. Normally, if I do like a long form campaign, I'll sit down with everyone one-on-one. But for one shots, and it's basically a deck that you hand out, and it's all anonymous, but it has just a bunch of triggers or like things that might make people uncomfortable, and you can go through and you put it face down back to the DM, and that way no one else understands this, but it gives the DM an opportunity to, adjust things on the spot for like one shots and stuff like that. Because more than anything, one shots, you're there for like 1 4-hour session. You want to make sure everyone has a good time. And, you bend the rules in one shots a little bit more so people have fun.
So one more question. This is not a question I've written down, but I need to ask you guys this because we've kind of transitioned into more, I guess we can call it like more serious conversation with how we play, how you guys like to drive home certain things as DMs. So this would be kind of a really important question I want to ask you guys. How do you lead your campaigns in a Christ-like manner? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I think the key is giving your players situations in which they can succeed instead of setting them up for failure. I've heard a lot of times, and for people who are just on the player side, a lot of times the way that I've heard D&D explained is it's the players versus the DM, and I really don't think that's the correct way to view it, because there is no versus. There's no I win if you guys lose. Like, if you guys aren't having a fun time, I'm not having a fun time. Like, I'm not out here to beat you. We're all in this together in order to have fun, have success, to build each other up, and to glorify God ultimately. It's the same thing that, I think in our marriages too, especially once we have children. It's not, especially when we have like an argument, it's not me versus you. It's we're on the same side. We need to tackle the problem together. Sometimes the problem is the children, and sometimes it's whatever else, but a lot of times it's seeing this as, hey, we're all on the same team. How can we all be successful?
That's good.
Don't actually tackle your children unless you're roughhousing, but sometimes.
Very important.
That's awesome. No, I like what you said. It's a collaborative thing, and that's what I always come back to when talking about D&D. Is that that's actually how I describe it to a person who's never interacted with D&D before. Going back to last week's episode about stigmas, I'm like, get away from your stigmas about the game if you don't know it. It is literally collaborative storytelling with some of your favorite people in the world, with the outcome determined by the roll of a die. So that's kind of how I describe D&D, and. Yeah, it's not us versus the DM or the DM, versus the world, so to speak. It's collaborative.
Yeah, I used to say it was like a role-playing game video game, but you could do literally anything you wanted, which is a fair enough description. But recently I've changed it. Since being a DM, I've changed it to collaborative storytelling, because that's where the key, the fun is.
Yeah, and a lot of people nowadays are leaning into those storytelling genres. I've even seen, like, in a bunch of things on YouTube themselves are shifting into a storyteller mindset. All these different creators and stuff are going that route. So it's kind of cool to see that as well.
And before I get into answering your question, like, not only is it collaborative storytelling, but you can put it in whatever setting you want it to be. Like, obviously, like D&D is traditionally, like, you think of like the medieval, like,
fantasy,
fantasy world. But you could do Star Wars. You could do modern day, like when you did your one shot, Tony. You could do like a crime investigation, like Sherlock Holmes one-shotter campaign. Like, it's just so much that you can do with it. D&D is really just like the rules. I mean, obviously they have a world built around it with everything that you can use, but D&D at its core is just a rule set that you loosely abide by. But to answer your question, I think as the DM, you have a large responsibility to a lot of things. I think the wellness of your whole group as a group and as individuals, as well as, and not just from a content perspective, make sure everyone's having fun. That's very important too. But also, if you're running something large, like keeping everyone's their opinions and stuff like that into consideration when you're progressing into something. Not to go back to what we were talking before, but like if something's making someone feel uncomfortable, one thing, and we always eat before we do our sessions, and we always pray before we do our sessions, just make sure we're glorifying God in our sessions. I think just being not only friendly, but like showing someone, whether it's a one shot with someone you've never played with before, a campaign, that like, hey, like I care not just about like your character that's playing, but like you as a person and stuff like that. And I think that's really important when it comes to leading a Christ-like one shot or campaign.
That's so good. I love all those questions. I love those answers. And when we talk about storytelling, it's incredible because, like, especially when you were talking about Tuck, like a collaborative effort with the DM, like that's how Christ treats us. Like I feel like the church gets into this mentality that it can be like us versus the world, and God is just kind of sitting up there looking at everything. God's up there just looking, and situations will come, but you know what? I'll call on him when I need to, and like he'll poof something down.
Mm-hmm.
But like this walk with Christ is collaborative. It's not him just sitting up there doing nothing. Granted, it's God is on the throne, but also Emmanuel, God is with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because
That's
I was actually reflecting on that a couple days ago. Like Emmanuel, God with us. God is both on the throne. God is both with us. The Holy Spirit lives inside of us. And just to hear you guys and how you approach that as DMs, it's incredible because you're embodying the Holy Spirit in this world that is fictional. But you're also putting it into the perspective of this is how I'm led by Jesus, and I'm going to lead you down the same way. And I admire that in such an amazing way.
Just a small little note, just to tail off of that too. I feel like it's such a good way to like do outreach and stuff like that. Like I said, I think anyone can enjoy it, whether it was someone who's a Christian or a believer or maybe a non-believer, and like getting someone in a group like that and being able to show the love of Christ. Like you don't have to cram Jesus down their throat, but just showing them the love of Christ. And I'm sure you've all heard this before, but like someone like looks at someone, they're like, oh wow, like there's something about that person that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a great way to reflect it too.
Well, Tony, there's so much more we can keep going on,
Seriously.
and we are going to.
Yes.
But we want to leave you guys wanting a little bit more.
Absolutely. Well, we kind of teased a couple weeks ago that this was going to be a multi-part episode. And so multi-part episode it shall be. This is kind of where we're wrapping this first half up. And I say half because I don't know how much more we're going to go. It's already been awesome and amazing and so many other platitudes for this episode. But we have to wrap it up for time's sake because we don't, we like the 2 hour.
It could be 4 hours long.
It could be a 4-hour episode, but it's all about that retention, folks. No, I'm kidding.
It's D&D night. We're used to talking for 4 hours straight.
No, truly. We actually are not playing D&D
Yeah,
tonight.
we're not playing tonight, though, actually, which is sad.
We were going to play D&D tonight, but now we're not going to play D&D tonight, and that's okay. No, life changes. But anyway, listeners, thank you for tuning in. Are there any last-minute things you guys want to add to this conversation so far? I mean, we have another whole half coming. Whole half? Another whole half? Weird. Anyway, we have another part coming.
There's a whole nother pie coming.
Yes. Actually, no, save your good stuff till the end, okay? We'll save it till next week. Make them come
absolutely
back.
rejected.
Absolutely. But for this week's episode, we did want to mention a couple things as we're closing. Okay, so I want to throw this out real quick. We have had some more inbox conversations from Rain M, and thank you so much for that email.
Yes.
About vicious mockery.
I really enjoyed looking
It was
at that
wonderful. Did you respond?
I have not responded yet.
We were going to respond.
If
Rain,
you're
we
listening,
promise.
we are going to respond to you. And he also sent us an email quite a while ago with some ideas that I want to give you confirmation for. That we are.
Yes.
I have been typing up and praying in the works to kind of go through some of that stuff, and we are so excited for that kind of content. But we've also had some other requests for a couple things that we're praying through.
Absolutely.
And one of those is Patreon.
Yeah. Folks, you guys have mentioned Patreon in a couple comments and things. And first of all, it's incredibly humbling to know that someone wants to contribute in any facet
It's a
towards
blessing.
our little show. Thank you for that. We are both encouraged and humbled and excited for what's next. So know that we are considering a Patreon. very, very soon. And that said, what are some of the things that you guys would actually want to see on a Patreon?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know Patreon is great for like behind the scenes stuff, which we could do behind the scenes stuff. I could throw up a camera and just record these sessions and do video stuff. Or we can do like other types of shout outs, or give us some ideas. I know I've seen the Patreons in actions with some of the bigger shows like NADPOD and all that kind of stuff. But we want to know what you guys want to hear or see or be a part of, whether that's merch, whether that's other stuff down the road. So,
and flipping it on a perspective of not just we're so blessed that you guys want to see that, but we want to bless you in return.
Absolutely.
In a manner of, if there's something like game, like especially when you guys just talk about Gen Con the whole time, if there's a game that you've written that you want us to promote, if there's a product you have that you want us to talk about, we want to do that. We want to do that. I know my man Stephen over there has something in the works soon.
Yes.
I won't spoil anything. I'll let him continue to work on that, but you can bet at some point that we're going to be promoting Stephen and the things that God has laid on his heart and what he is doing.
We want to promote Christians doing awesome things in the world and your products and your kingdom board games even that we've come across. So yeah, keep sending us stuff. Let us know what you want to see in a Patreon, and we'll definitely take that into consideration and probably do it really quick, really soon moving forward. Yeah. So thank you guys for listening. I do want to remind those who have not subscribed yet to subscribe. Leave a review if you can, because that definitely helps with the metrics and the analytics, and so people can get D&D meets Bible to more people. So yeah, rate, review. We would love that. We have social media handles. They are...
Yes, we do.
Now I got to remember them. Wow. Instagram is Dungeons and Disciples. That is the word Dungeons and Disciples, and is spelled out. And the same thing with Facebook, Dungeons and Disciples. And our Gmail is dungeonsdisciples without the and, dungeonsdisciples@gmail.com. You guys can reach out to us there. Thank you for those who have. We are getting back to those who we have not responded to yet. So be encouraged that is on the way. Any of the last minute things, Josh?
Do any of the guests want to pray us out today?
Yeah.
Wow, good offer. I love it.
The humility.
Over here pointing.
The humility in the room.
That would have been good for Patreon right there. You got it. You do it.
The humility in the room, allowing the other to be a part of it. No, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
God, I just want to thank you for this day. Just thank you for this fellowship. Just thank you for the friendships that we've created, God. Thank you for the just this mission that you've set Tony and Josh on, God, to just bring the world of D&D and, more importantly, God, your love to the rest of the world, God, and just let them bring it in a different fashion, God. There's no one way to spread the gospel, God, and just being able to pull people in from different areas of life, God, is just so important. So I just want to thank you for that, God. I just want to pray for everybody listening, God. I just pray that everybody has a great week, great weekend, and I'm just excited to keep growing with this band of brothers, God. In your name we pray.
Amen.
Thanks for listening, guys.
See you for part 2. Boom, boom, boom.